Hi, I'm Abby, former pharmacist turned health coach, specializing in willpower and motivation. I help women stick to their plan so that they can lose weight, feel amazing, have energy, and really live their lives and show up how they want to without all the battling and fighting and restricting and cravings and white knuckling it. So let's go. This is how and why I use low carb to manage my cravings. So here's the thing about cravings. As I've discussed in other videos, cravings are communicating to your brain from your body. It can be communicating that you're hungry. It can be communicating that you need to be soothed and you need to cope with an emotion. It can be your gut microbiome. It can be your blood sugar. It can be all kinds of things. And it's important to listen when your body is talking to you. And personally, I like to have less cravings. When I'm constantly having to manage cravings, it's exhausting. I don't know about you, but it's exhausting when I'm constantly having cravings and I'm having to manage them and deal with them all the time. Eventually, you just give up, right? Because the body always wins. And so, as I have kind of gone through my own health journey, one of the things that I've found is that when I can eat in a way and live in a way, because it's not just eating, but live in a way that makes my cravings softer, less frequent, and easier to resolve, then it's just easier to continue living that way, right? So I kind of think of this as not just using a low carb diet, but using a low carb lifestyle. Okay. So first let's talk about why that works to soften and get rid of cravings. So you may have noticed when you eat, especially processed carbs, that, by the way, are designed by food scientists to make it so that you can't eat just one. It makes you hungrier. It makes you crave those foods. It makes you, dare I say, addicted to those foods. So when you eat more of them, you want more of them, right? So it would make sense that when you eat less of them, then you want and crave less of them. So just removing the processed, highly hyper processed foods can significantly help with cravings. And that has been my experience. The less of them I eat, the less of them I want. And there is that little period where you're wanting them and you're choosing not to eat them. That is, uncomfortable and unpleasant, but it does generally, if you can do it, it resolves relatively quickly. But also by eating a diet that is full of protein and quality fats, it allows you to feel satiated. And there's actually quite a bit of data to show this, especially protein. It's highly satiating. So it makes you feel full and satisfied. I also find that if I'm having a craving or I'm feeling hungry and I eat some protein, if I feel a craving, a half hour later, and I know that I just ate plenty of food, I know, oh, this is a craving related to boredom or anxiety. It's not a craving because I'm actually hungry. And I find that it's easier to kind of be like, I don't need to eat right now. I can just, just distract myself or use one of my strategies to not need to indulge in that craving. And I find that super useful. All right. Additionally, and I kind of mentioned this in the beginning, but the other thing that stimulates cravings, especially for me, I wear a CGM and I've noticed that I big time have cravings as my blood sugar is going down. So just to kind of get us all on the same page, when you eat something, especially with carbohydrates in it, or if you do something like intense workout, sometimes a hot shower or a stressful event, when you do something that makes your blood sugar go up, your body responds with a lot of different things. One of the main components is insulin, whose job is to open up the doors so that that blood sugar or that glucose can get out of your blood and into all of your muscles and be able to get out of your blood. Okay, so blood sugar goes up, insulin gets released, blood sugar comes down. In fact, it can come down very rapidly. And low blood sugar is also a problem for the body. And so your body then will say, hey, you need to eat. Something's about to happen. And so when we have these big spikes, the spike and the drop, those stimulate a lot of cravings. And when I eat low carb, and when I try to minimize big stressors or manage big stressors adequately, my blood sugar looks more steady. So some of you are watching me on the video and I'm showing, but essentially it's not the big spikes and it's not the big drops. It's smaller spikes and smaller drops. And that's what we want. And again, CGM can show you exactly that. And so that is kind of, for me, when I'm trying to manage cravings and kind of be consistent and build up some frequency with my healthy habits, maintaining that kind of smaller amplitude of spikes and troughs helps me because I don't have as many cravings. I'm not as hungry, or I don't feel the hunger and the cravings. I don't get confused about, is this hunger or is this a craving? And just generally, I feel more satiated more of the time. So it just makes it easier. And for me, it has to feel or get easier, or I'm not going to do it. Like, I'm just not. I can tell myself that I should. I can tell myself that it's good for me. I can tell myself that, my future self would want it. And none of that matters. If it doesn't feel easy and if it doesn't get easier, I'm just not going to do it. I don't know if any of you can relate to that. So, okay, so how do I maintain not just a low carb diet, but a low carb lifestyle? So a couple things that I do that help me maintain it. Number one, same as before, I make it easy. So I have a handful of recipes that are easy for me, that don't take a lot of effort. That's probably another episode, which recipes I use, but essentially I have experimented and I know which ones are easy. I know what my family likes so that I don't get too adventurous. I don't get too bored either. I know that's a problem for some people. You get bored of eating the same thing over and over again. I don't have that problem. I'm happy just eating the same thing over and over again. I think I've had the same breakfast every day for like the last, I don't know, year, some combination. But anyways, I keep things in my house. I actually have a list of things, like, you must have all of these things in your house at all times, because if these easy foods are in your house, then you will be okay. That's kind of how I think about it. So number one, I keep easy foods in my house. I try really hard to keep the hyper processed stuff out of my house. And this isn't, so that's tip number two. It's not perfect. I have children, I have family. We keep stuff in our house. We have a fire pit. And so we have marshmallows in the house. And historically, if there were marshmallows in my house and the bag was opened, I'm eating those marshmallows like all day as I'm walking through the pantry, right? Right now, there is a bag that's been open. I think we opened it maybe Friday night. And I haven't had any since then, not on wood. But I try really hard to keep the things that I know that are triggering to me, that I know that I have a hard time not indulging in, out of my house, because it just makes it easier. They are triggers for me to want to munch, right? Okay. So those two are big. I also, as I mentioned, I use a CGM. If you're watching, you can see. So there it is. That's my CGM. And what that does is it tracks, and I can show you if you're watching this on the video, it tracks my blood sugar. So I can see if I'm having big spikes or I'm going really low. And again, it's not just what I'm eating, it's also the activities that I'm doing, exercise or stress or all those sorts of things. So right now I'm kind of spiking up. My breakfast was apparently a little carb heavy. So anyways, I use CGM because it is instant feedback about whether the food that I just ate is going to spike me or not. So this morning, and there may be a stress factor this morning. It's complicated, but long story short, CGMs give you instant feedback about the things that you're doing and how they're affecting your blood sugar. And so then you can decide, do you want to change what you're doing or do you want to keep doing it? You always get to just decide. Lastly, I also use a ketone monitor. So I don't always try to eat in ketosis, using a ketogenic diet. But right now I am. And it is highly motivating for me to keep myself in the range of ketosis so that I get the benefits from like a brain fog, cognitive benefit. Also, energy is a big thing for me. And so by staying in ketosis, I make sure that I get the benefits that I want. And that's super motivating to me. So those are the big things that I use to stay in a low carb lifestyle and keep my blood sugar managed so that my cravings are managed. So a couple things. Number one, I have a guide to help you dissolve cravings with ease, not with force. So you can grab that in the show notes. I also have a link if you're interested in trying out a CGM. I have a link for you to sign up and grab that through a company called Very. You can check it out. I would love to hear from you if this was useful for you. If you have any other questions, we'll probably do a whole separate one on the food specifically. And lastly, I just want to say, I'm not here to convince anyone to do low carb. And if you are going to try it, especially if you have any health conditions or on any medications, you absolutely need to be talking to your healthcare provider about it first, because it can be very impactful to your health, good and bad, depending on what you have going on. So I just want to have that disclaimer in there. This is my personal story, how and why I use low carb. And it really has been really successful for me personally in my individual body. And what's great is I have experimented and tracked, and I have found what works for me. And that is something that I really enjoy doing, helping others figure out what works for them and how they can, muster up the willpower or create a system so that you don't need willpower to stick to your plan.
All right. So if this resonated with you, if you found this useful, if you'd like to dig in a bit more, I want to share with you a free resource that I offer called a willpower assessment call. So this call is for you if you have out of control cravings, if you're trying to lower those processed carbs or make some changes in your life, if you're trying to lose weight by battling and fighting and resisting and restricting against your body. If you know what to do, but you just can't do it, this call is for you. On the call, we will talk about your specific willpower goal and why you want it, obstacles and challenges that kind of have derailed your success, and the self-sabotage that comes along with it. I am so excited to personally, it'll be me, jump on a call and see how we can help you. If at the end of the call we're a good fit, I'll let you know the other resources that I have available, including my program, The Willpower Solution. But if not, I will send you on your way, point you to some more resources that will be great for you. As always, you can find me in my Facebook group, No Willpower, No Problem, and on Instagram at Abbi Linde. I can't wait to connect.